Jennifer, can you hear us?
I'm not, I was there.
Yes, I can. Regent Mendoza.
Yes.
Dr. Lane is emailing you some documents.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I am showing 11 o'clock Central Time. I am actually on the West Coast this morning, so I am on, it's 9 o'clock for me here, but I will be back on Central Time this evening. So I want to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Board Academic Affairs Standing Committee. Jennifer, will you please call roll call of committee members to establish a quorum?
Regent Mendoza.
Regent Mendoza.
Present.
Regent Johnston.
Regent Johnston. Here.
Regent Perisker.
Regent Perisker.
I'm here. I had an issue with the car this morning coming into K-State. I had to give my car to a roadside assistant and took another car. And I'm on my way there.
Okay, thank you. This concludes roll.
Okay, just as a reminder that all meeting attendees will be recorded and included in the meeting minutes. Our first item of business is to approve the minutes from the November 6th BASC meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
I can second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries in the minutes. I'm not sure if you guys have an echo on your end.
Yes,
Okay.
that vote was 6-0.
I'm hearing everything like repeated, so I don't know what's causing that.
That just got fixed. I think it sounds good in
Maybe,
here
are you
now.
still getting it?
No, I think we're good now. Okay.
Or else it's been-
All right. So I would like to recommend and formally make a motion that we modify the performance agreement report recommendation going before the board to have all institutions receive 100% funding. And I'm making this recommendation based on additional information that was provided to the academic affairs staff. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve all institutions for the 100% funding.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. There's the double again. I don't know what's happening. So I think we can go ahead and move on to other matters. It looks like we have a presentation on system-wide course placement measures for English Composition 1. Sam?
Yes, thank you. It's not really a presentation, just an update and intro to the measures that you guys would hopefully act upon. So as you guys might recall, this committee approved the math course placement measures back in September for 3 gateway math courses. Today, you're looking at placement measures for students placed into English Composition 1 without prerequisite support. So as a reminder, this work is the result of changes to the gateway course placement and developmental education policy that were approved by the board in May of 2023. At that time, it was communicated that many institutions in the system were relying kind of heavily upon high stakes standardized exams for placement for both English and math courses. Policy indicated system-wide course placement measures using multiple measures will be in place for gateway English and math courses, and that an appropriate discipline-specific committee will advise the measures. So the English Course Placement Measures Committee formed last summer, and they met 5 times, bringing forward the recommendations indicated in the issue paper. The committee recommends the system-wide course placement measures on page 6 of the agenda for placement into English Comp 1 without co-requisite developmental support. Are there questions about the measures or the process?
I don't have any questions. Does anybody else have any questions for Sam?
I do not.
Does Basque need to approve these?
Yeah.
And then it can go on to, does the board need to take
No.
any action just
Just
at
Basque.
Basque?
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve these measures?
So moved.
And I
I
will,
can second.
okay, I'll give that to Regent Parasker. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay,
Could I add one thing before we move on, just on behalf of the board and the academic affairs? I want to express my gratitude to the English Course Placement Committee. This is work above and beyond what they're responsible for at their own campuses. But they took it on with a great enthusiasm, probably not the right word, but they took it very seriously and very studiously, and I think came up with some measures that will certainly benefit our students. We can't get our work done. We can't do what we need to do without the help of good people like this committee. So my thanks go to them on behalf of everyone here at K-Board.
yes, thank you very much for all of that work. All right, I think we're moving on now to an update on the Blueprint for Literacy by Dr. Cindy Lane. This is another group that's really been working hard to meet all of the criteria within that blueprint. Senate bill, we hit the ground running in June. Dr. Lane has done a lot of work with the committee, so we are happy to have her here today to provide us an update. Dr. Lane?
Thank you very much, Chair Mendoza. It's great to be back with everybody today. So we emailed to you the copy of the two documents that we want to talk with the group about today. And Regent Prohaska, we have hard copies here for you, but if you'd like for us to email them to you too as you're in transit, we'd be glad to do so. And to the provost, if you'd like to come up, we want to make sure you have copies of the items that we're going to discuss, if that's okay with you, Chair Mendoza. We've got plenty up here on the tables.
Yes,
but-
absolutely. And Dr. Lane, I'm not seeing that in my email.
It will come from Rachel Rubio, who's my colleague here, so that may be why. If you don't get it, let us know and we'll try again.
Okay.
And speaking of, I'd like to introduce to you Rachel Rubio. Rachel is the new Senior Associate Director for the Blueprint for Literacy. She is the content expert on the team. Just really grateful to have Rachel. She started on October 28th, was 2 days before we had a major initiative to have the proposals for the centers presented. And so she has had to hit the ground running and is just doing a tremendous job. But everybody should feel confident now that we actually have a content expert in the area of the literacy on this team. And so I'm really pleased to have her. So the purpose of today is to give an overall update on two major initiatives that Chairman Mendoza spoke to, that the Blueprint for Literacy is working on. I'd like for you to consider these as a first read, because we would like to bring them back to you in December for approval, and we'll be asking the board for approval too. So if I may just start with some background and kind of reset of our journey to this point. The committee will remember that back in 2022, the Academic Affairs Committee and the board established an educator workforce task force and asked the deans of our colleges of education to bring forth recommendations on what the Board of Regents could do to frankly assist our K-12 partners in tackling our literacy crisis. And I'm using that word on purpose because we have nearly a third of our children in our state, in the Midwest region and across the country, who either are not reading or who do not read well. And so the deans came together and created a document for the academic affairs and for the board, recommending 19 different recommendations on what higher ed system could do to support educators in K-12, try to make a difference for our kids. In the middle of those recommendations, those 19, was a recommendation to focus on structured literacy. The board decided to elevate that recommendation to a top priority and began working with other policymakers and legislators who were trying to craft a plan to provide resources and strategies to address this reading crisis. And that plan became the Blueprint for Literacy that was signed into law by Governor Kelly in April of this past year. And so the blueprint requires an advisory committee. It requires higher ed focus on structured literacy, the current science of reading, requires that we develop courses or micro-credentials for educators who are in the classroom to help upskill those educators with the knowledge and skills they need to be successful with their students. And it requires a few other things, but the other major component is this idea of a centers of excellence in literacy. So I'd like to talk to you first about where we are in the journey with creating the micro-credential that is not micro. And I'll show you that in a minute, why it's not micro. And then we'll talk about the centers of excellence in literacy, if that meets your expectation, Chair Mendoza.
Yes, absolutely.
At your place, and did you receive the documents? Not yet.
No, I haven't seen them come in yet.
We will continue to try to get those to you, but you're familiar with them because you've been part of this work. Regent Mendoza is representing the Board of Regents on our advisory committee, which is made up of 25 members, 15 who are voting and 10 who are content experts. And we're really grateful for all the time that she's devoted to that process. For those of you that are here, we'll start first with the document. We'll start first with the document that says Blueprint for Literacy Credential Criteria. And let me just also share with you that none of the work on this credential would be possible without our, what I call fondly, our Literacy 7. The public universities have identified one literacy expert from each of the universities who are fully engaged in the blueprint, are my guiding light, my ship in the dark to help us ensure that we are creating high impact, high quality opportunities for teachers. That team of 7, we call the L7, has really been tremendous. And I want you to think about it for a minute. This team is working across the public universities on course development in a collaboration that is the same course that will be offered at all 7 of our public universities. And it's extraordinary. And when I've talked to people on the national level about the commitment of our literacy faculty here in Kansas, they are in awe that we have so much investment across all of our public universities. So I can't stress enough how important that has been to the work. Keep in mind, we officially started July 1st. We're 5 months into this initiative, and I'm before you presenting what is nearly a completed development of a course ready to be implemented this spring. Okay. So what was important to us is to establish a criteria for the course to ensure that we're thinking about something that is high value to the educators who are in the K-12 classrooms today. The background for this particular initiative in Senate Bill 438, which is the law establishing the blueprint, it requires that the State Board of Regents and the State Board of Education collaborate to create micro-credentials, professional development programs, and other credentials in the science of reading and specifically structured literacy. And that we are to make this accessible to all teachers across the state. And so that's what this work has focused on. So this course that we are trying to step away from calling it micro-credential, it really is a full course currently titled The Foundations of Science of Reading. And what's really unique about what the faculty are designing is that this course is not only knowledge, but it is focused on application. And you'll see in the criteria a commitment to provide personal coaching to every K-12 teacher who enrolls so that they have help applying this very challenging science called structured literacy in the classroom. Structured literacy requires direct and explicit individualized instruction to every learner until every learner reaches mastery. So you can imagine in a classroom of 25 and 30 kids, how challenging it is to have the skill sets to be able to ensure every child in the class reaches mastery on every component in reading. Keep that in the forefront of your thinking. So the first thing that we established is that this course had to be aligned to the national standards, the gold standards, if you will, in literacy that are called the International Dyslexia Association Knowledge and Practice Standards. Now, the association is called International Dyslexia Association, but these standards are what all children need, regardless of whether or not they are strong, emerging readers or struggling readers. So we've aligned the course to those standards to ensure that our teachers have the absolute best knowledge possible. They also align to the Kansas standards for the education preparation programs. We are having a third party, a national expert in the area of structured literacy, evaluate our course to make sure that we're not missing something and to provide consultation on how we can improve this course. It is designed in modules, and you can see those modules in the handout that's before you. You can see all the different modules that make up this course. So it's designed with those with performance assessments after each module. So an educator might enroll in the module for assessments. They go through the module, which could be an online or a hybrid course. That's university dependent on the format. Take the content, and then there's a performance assessment that they must pass. And then they move into the coaching stage. For our educators who are experienced in the classroom, maybe want to take the course just to improve a particular module skill set, they can test out of the other modules and hone directly into what they need to improve their professional practice. That's another component of what the literacy faculty are developing that is not common to other courses like this that are available in the market. So I want you to keep that in mind as it separates us from what others are offering. It's equivalent to 180 clock hours. So you can see why it's not micro. And when we began developing this, we were calling it a micro credential, but it's really a course and a credential. And it equates to about 6 hours of graduate credit. Thankful that the university deans are working through their campus processes in order to be able to offer it for credit. That credit will be paid for by the Blueprint for Literacy. So educators who take this course will have no out-of-pocket cost for tuition or fees. We also will be talking with you all and the rest of the board about working with the universities to establish a market rate tuition. So if I enroll at K-State, for example, the tuition that I pay is the same as if I were enrolling at Fort Hays. It's the same, leveling the playing field so that all of our universities can provide equal access to this course. So it also can be useful in K-12 systems for professional development points that are often used to move on salary schedules. So we're really excited about that. And I think the final comment I'll make is that the Blueprint will pay educators who go through this course a stipend. It won't be a large stipend, but it'll be enough to say thank you for continuing to evolve your skills in the areas that we can ensure every child learns to read. So our plan, the faculty are nearing the end of developing the actual content. That will then be delivered to our national expert for review. We will be in front of the State Board of Education in December, asking them to authorize this course for their licensure requirements. So it can be an option to the LETRS initiative that's currently in place. And we are working with an instructional design team at Wichita State University to help us with that aspect of it, anticipating that this will be able to be available to our educators by March. So I shared a lot. I'd love to hear your feedback, questions, things that you think we might need to consider as we're moving this forward.
If anyone has any questions.
Yes, Chair Mendoza, I have a question to Cindy. So good to see you back again. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. Great work. As you already know, there's a lot of effort that went into this. My question is, after the particular certification is taken by all the teachers or educators, what is the expected results? And what is the time frame in which we could expect the results in showing up within the students? Is this a proven methodology that we are using, or is it innovative in its own way? And we are hoping that other education institutes will follow, because this clearly is more bigger problem than just in Kansas.
Thank you for that question. There's a lot there, so let me see if I can unpack it. First, starting with, is it a proven methodology? Absolutely. The science of reading has been around since the year 2000, when the National Reading Panel identified 5 pillars essential to reading: phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. And we had a lot of methodologies that were used and were reported at that time to be the best methodologies for all children to learn to read. You might be familiar with terms like whole language and balanced literacy. In the year 2014, researchers then began to tell educators that there was a better way, that we needed to use structured literacy that is more direct and explicit. The old methodology taught children if they didn't know a word, they could just skip it, they could look at a picture, they could guess based on context clues. And we've learned that that might have been effective for some children, particularly those who come from high resourced homes that have lots of rich language experiences outside of school. But for the majority of children, that methodology fell short. So starting in 2014, structured literacy, it is the gold standard of where we are in the current science. And so therefore we have educators who have been trained under previous methodologies that as a system of higher ed focused on developing the workforce for the future, we have an obligation to help reskill the teachers. So it's aligned to the latest science. And it is a proven methodology, and it's very complex, and challenging. That's why that application and coaching piece is so essential. Now, I'm sure I didn't catch all of what you asked at Regent Prohaska, so if there's something else I missed, would you remind me what?
The second part of the question, or maybe multiple parts of this question, was when are we hoping to see that graph go up within our kids?
That most important question I missed. So thank you for reminding me of that. The blueprint has a goal that 90% of the children will be reading at or above grade level on this Kansas State assessment by 2033. So this is a strategy amongst a whole plan of strategies to assist. In partnership with K-12, let's keep in mind that they're doing the Letters Initiative training in a similar way, educators as well. Where we think this is adds value is that Letters is a knowledge-based curriculum, and it does not necessarily have an application component built in. Our literacy faculty believe that the way to improve outcomes for children is to make sure that there's application, clinical experiences, and hands-on coaching for educators. So our goal with this and all other strategies in the blueprint is to have 90% of our children reading on grade level by 2033.
That's fantastic. I also want to just add a comment from the industry that I come from. We do go through credential certifications to keep ourselves up to date with what's changing. And it almost feels like it's in line with what our educators are given opportunity to learn and grow with the change in systems and the way our kids are exposed to in these days. So this work you and the team are doing is absolutely critical. And I think it's also matches with other industries that are growing and rapidly changing. So just wanted to add that comment.
Thank you very much.
Chair Mendoza,
Yes.
if I may. Well, first, I'd like to say great work. And I think that this truly is a model to show that, we can be nimble as educators and get stuff done quickly. To have started in July and be able to implement a course this next spring, I think is really remarkable. And I want to commend your work on that because that is great. The fact that it's based on science, and of course, we all know that it's critical to our families, our communities, and to the state to have our students be able to read it at grade level and to make sure that we fill the workforce gap that we have. I think all of these things are going to be critically important. And so I want to commend you for that. It's exciting. Like I said, it's really exciting to see that we can do this so quickly. I think that's a model because sometimes in higher ed, we get marred down a little bit. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time. I did see here where it says that it's encouraged that the Kansas independent colleges will use the course. And so I hope that's the case. Will it be available to them? So are we able to give them that course in terms of materials, content, that type of thing?
That's a great question. We are making this accessible to all Kansas educators. So regardless of the university that they may be accustomed to being affiliated with. What we're encouraging at this moment is that the independent colleges accept the credit as a transfer back in their program. We're also, there's a member of the independent colleges on our committee, and so I'm in conversation with them about how do we support them standing up their own if they choose to do that. So this is for all Kansas educators. Right now, the course itself will be offered through the 7 publics, but it's available to everyone. And we're really pleased that the independents are thinking about how to then transfer that credit back and maybe some additional steps they'd like to take.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just have to also say that none of this happens without our amazing faculty at the universities and that they're stepping in to do this work. And I've just had the privilege of encouraging on the side and asking them what they need. So we often have heard that higher ed hasn't been teaching what teachers need to know. That is not the case. Can we improve and think about how to truly get applications so that teachers feel confident in doing these skills? Yes, but we have the expertise in the system, and that's been really rewarding. This will be first course of a series of courses that this group of literacy experts are developing. So they're looking at what do paraprofessionals need, what do teachers in special ed and ESOL need, and how do we design courses specifically to address their practices.
Will those be separate credentials, Dr. Lang?
They will be, yes. So this course is really foundational for those who maybe have some knowledge, incomplete knowledge, or are working in a new position that requires literacy expertise. We think that this course is suitable for K-8 educators, preschool, infant toddler teachers, building leaders. We also know that some of those positions need more than the foundations, and so we'll be designing those courses.
I'm also excited to see because I think it gives credibility to the fact that those teachers that have been in the system for a while can test out of some of the modules. I think that that's very appropriate. And I'm excited to see the results and hope that 2033 that we really move the needle.
Okay, Chair Mendoza, if it's all right with you, I'd like to talk about the centers. So have you received the document?
Yes, I have it now.
Yay. So, second big strategy that the Blueprint Advisory Committee is focused on are creating centers of excellence in literacy. And let me just say that in Senate Bill 438, they provide the legislation provide an immediate challenge because the advisory committee is required by law to have a plan approved by the Board of Regents and ready for legislative review by January 1st, 2025. And I just want to emphasize that a minute, to think about creating strategic actions and developing plans for centers of excellence that go across our entire state. And oh, by the way, you have 6 months, frankly, less because of needing to get it on agendas and things, to have a plan in place. So before you, you have what is still a draft plan. This is a first read for academic affairs and for the board. And I'll hit some highlights in this plan. We encourage you to really look at it and provide us feedback moving forward. The procedures that we use, I like to call a top-down, bottom-up strategic planning process. It's a process that it is not mine, but you can find research on that says if you want to do strategic planning in a compressed timeline like ours, and you want to make sure that your plan is informed by the field, from the top, the advisory committee, you establish a framing document that articulates a broad vision, what you're trying to accomplish, and some metrics and requirements, and then you send it out to the field and ask for proposals. That's the process that we use. We receive proposals from 7 public, our public universities, the independent colleges who've had accredited educator preparation programs were also eligible to apply. No, they did not, at least at this stage. So we had amazing feedback from each university. The teams under the dean's leadership spent significant time and resources developing proposals that were then presented to the committee October 31st to help the committee really think about what are we trying to accomplish, how do we get started, and what are the resources needed to do this work. So given that context, the first page just will point you to the map. The map shows across our state the number of 3rd graders that are scoring below basic on the state reading assessment. And if you're below basic, you really are struggling to read. Many don't read at all. So you can see the percentages there. We thought it important to really identify across our state where additional resources were needed. The next section talks about the teacher shortage. I'll let you look at that on your own. I'll just say that in Kansas, we have 1,900 vacancies. And even within that, we have people who are teaching out of their licensure field. Across the nation, we really have a crisis in terms of recruiting teachers and keeping teachers in the classrooms. And I'll let you fill in the blanks about why that might be. And then the second page talks about the response from the Board of Regents and legislators and the charge to the advisory committee. I'd like to spend a little bit of time with you on page 3. That articulates the center's vision and what we're trying to accomplish. The word center implies that we're trying to set up centers that are places where people have to go to get support. And they are that, but they also are a network. So the centers really are fostering a statewide collaboration, leveraging the knowledge and skills of higher ed, working in collaboration with K-12, and to create a sustainable system so that we don't find ourselves here a few years down the road, once again, when the science improves, behind what teachers need to be able to do in classrooms. So these centers create a sustainable system that also thinks about equity. The needs across our state are not the same. The population density is not the same. And we'll show you in a minute how we're trying to address that. The goals are right in the middle of the document, and Regent Prohaska elevated the goal about student performance. The centers will assist and be a key player in trying to ensure 90% of our children read, and that every educator achieves a micro-credential or a credential or participates in letters to ensure that they have the skills of implementing structured literacy. We also develop what we call catchment area maps. And I don't have a copy of that for you, but we've divided the state into what we call catchment areas so that we have 7 centers and they know exactly the geographic boundaries that we're asking them to serve. But let me just say again, they're not restricted in those boundaries because the system of public universities are committed to working together to sharing resources across those catchment areas. On page 4, we articulate what our impact measures are, and that includes assisting our educator preparation programs with strengthening the work that they're doing, field experience, those kinds of things. And then talks about student outcomes that we anticipate impacting, and then talks about the center staff and the qualifications that the committee is recommending for center staff. And then on page 5, we talk about families. The work the centers will do with families is not direct service with children. It is assessment and evaluation, and then serving in consultation with school districts on how to support children who are struggling readers. I don't know if I heard a question, but I just wanted to pause. See none. So on page 5, you see something called the implementation timeline, and then the next several pages talk about the required work of the centers, broken down in terms of what will be happening for pre-service teachers in the centers, what's the expectation for our in-service teachers or teachers who are already in the classroom, how we'll work with assessment and outreach. Partnerships are key to making this successful because the universities cannot do this work alone. So we're identifying partners that are currently doing work in literacy across the state. We'll be engaging them. So there's a lot here in this plan. Wanted to be sure that you had a chance to look at it. On page 11, you'll notice that we're identifying 7 centers as each of our 6 Regent plus Washburn having a center. Those proposals that they presented, we'll be meeting with the teams for each university and asking them to make adjustments based on this new document that says, here's what we're trying to achieve. And we expect to begin standing up these centers starting in the spring, sometime between February and May. So amazing work. This plan is a continuous improvement plan. It's a good plan. It's not a perfect plan, and we're committed to continuing to improve it moving forward. But we're here for your feedback and can take that back to the advisory committee, who will be meeting on Friday to try to finalize their recommendation.
Chairman Doza,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a good question. So Dr. Lane, are the centers, are they going to be embedded in the College of Education at the 7 universities? Or will it be sort of a standalone center that's separate from the College of Education?
The actual physical location of the requirement is that it's accessible to educators and families. So in terms of physicality, that's up to each university to tell us what's best suited. But keep in mind that the centers work in strong partnership with the educator prep programs. It's not a separate thing that sits on the
That's what
side.
that's more what I meant than
Yeah.
physically.
Yes.
Because I envision it that we certainly need the department, that we need the College of Education's expertise, those folks that have been doing this as central to the centers.
Right.
So
So
that was my question.
The centers are support to the educator prep programs. The educator prep programs are support to the
Okay.
centers.
Good, thank you.
And then think about them as a network, because the word center implies you have to go to a place, and that.
Right.
The expectation is that we are networking out into the communities as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments for Dr. Lane?
I just wanted to add that I did not receive the email yet. I'm not sure if I'm looking for the right person, but if Regent Mendoza, if you want to forward that email to me,
Yes, I can do that.
that would be great. Thank you.
We will have a hard copy for you as well when you arrive.
I'm here in the parking lot, so I didn't want to move. Just wanted to get this meeting done. But yes, I'll come and pick up the copy.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions or comments? As Dr. Lay mentioned at the beginning of her presentation, I am part of the committee. I know there's been tremendous work that has gone into this. Dr. Lane has worked hours upon hours getting this together, and I don't know how she does it all. So thank you for your work on this, Dr. Lane, and thank you to the committee that's put in all of the time and effort to this is tremendous work that's going to make a lasting impact on the students across our state. So thank you so much for that.
Teamwork.
Yes. All right. If there are no other questions, we will move on to other academic affairs updates. Do we have any other updates for today?
Carla has one, I believe.
Okay.
The Transfer and Articulation Council met last week and will be bringing 6 new system-wide transfer courses to the board. That'll be on the virtual agenda for December 4th. The Transfer Council reviewed not only those 6 new courses, but 20 review courses that half of them changed their outcomes, half of them remained as they were before. But I would like to thank Jennifer Box for creating those reports and then cleaning those up after the faculty submitted with the outcomes that they've chosen. And the other thing, last week I sent an email to the community college chief academic officers regarding the 4 system-wide transfer or system-wide associate degrees. And the community colleges that wish to offer those 4 degrees will send the degree check sheets that Sam Christie Dangermond created with her talent. And those are due December 2nd. So we'll be taking a look at those, and they're on our website, the forms. So that's all I have for system-wide transfer.
Okay. Thank you, Carla.
Mhm.
Any other updates or anything to come before the committee? Okay, so I think that concludes our meeting for today. Just as a reminder, BASC will meet virtually on December 4th. If there's no other business to come before us, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.